Hey, how's it going, everyone? What is up? Welcome back to the channel and your daily dose of fighting games. Now, with sticking with branching out, doing other things, I wanted to make this video today because I had an intense set, as you're going to see in this video. I was playing casuals on Mortal Kombat off stream sometime around last week, and I was getting my ass completely handed to me by Kogo. And this video, I wanted to talk about while the gameplay rolls, adapting and adjusting to your opponent. One of the hardest things to do in a fighting game. But it's also one of the things that you're going to find yourself having to do most of the time while playing fighting games. Adapting to your opponent while you're losing. You don't always get a chance to do that. In Combat League, you don't get a chance to do that. You have 2 games. And if you lose both, then you're down. In a tournament, it's usually first to 3, so you have 3 games to adjust and make a reverse 3-0. Or if you're in losers finals, winners finals, whatever, you have the reset bracket, chance to adjust. But in most situations, when it comes to casuals, you are able to adjust. And casuals, in my opinion, are the best place to actually learn how to adjust to your opponents. You have many games, if they stick around, to actually adjust and find out what you're doing wrong. You have plenty of time to get better at adjusting. You have more preparation to figure out how to adjust and apply that mindset to a smaller set like a first to 2 or a first to 3 or even a bracket reset if you make it far enough in a tournament. Adjusting to your opponent, like I said, can be one of the most difficult things you ever do in a fighting game because it's not only figuring out what you're doing wrong yourself, but figuring out how to get around what your opponent is doing as well. Because when you need to adjust, it's usually something to do with you and to do with them, whether it's the character they're playing, whether it's the character you're playing. Maybe you're being counterpicked, maybe you need to counterpick because of the character it is. Now, in this set, I was playing against Kogo. I started out the set as my Liu Kang that has, I believe at that time, it was like the Flame Fist to make your punches stronger. I had the low fireball, and I think I had either the parry or the stance. Now, my variation is completely different now for that variation. But as I progressed through the set, I think I got like 4-1 to start out with. And you guys aren't going to see all the games because it was like an almost hour-long set, so you guys aren't going to see all of them. But I think I got like 4-1, and the first step of me adjusting, because I found out, like I was thinking in my head, okay, this variation is not working. He's able to do whatever he wants at all times. He's able to pressure me and whatever else. I didn't want to switch characters because I was still learning Liu Kang. I just picked up Liu Kang like the night before. I wanted to stick with Liu Kang even though I felt like this was a bad matchup. But the first step of adjusting, especially with customs in play, but even before customs, was thinking about the variations you had. I have multiple different variations set up for every character that I play that usually handles every situation that I need it to. So in this situation, thinking about how Kogo has a forward advancing mid that advances most of the screen for some reason, and it was a mid or a high, it's a mid. If it's a mid or a high, it gets caught by Liu Kang's parry. So that was the first step of adjusting for me. Hey, this variation isn't working out. He has a forward advancing mid. Let me switch over to a variation that has a parry. That's only taking one of my moves away. And the thought was that's one move that I'm not really using that much in this set. I haven't had a chance to use it, and I probably wouldn't have used it otherwise because I think the one time I did use it, he poked me out of it. So that was the first step of adjusting in the situation. Figure out what you're doing wrong and figuring out how to adjust to that. So I switched variations. I switched over to my other Liu Kang variation that had the parry, had the stance that, amplifies your damage a little bit, and still has my low fireball. So now I have a little bit of a chance in the neutral if I react. I'm not that good at reacting for flawless blocks in the neutral for like forward advancing mids or anything. I'm getting better at that, but that is one thing you want to learn. Mechanics. So once I got past that, once I was like, okay, I have a fighting chance in the mid now. He's not just going to be able to all the time do forward to this, that, and the other, stay safe, and then back up. He's going to have to respect my parry when I think about using it. And that's another thing you need to think about when it comes down to it. You need to actually, when you switch variations, when you adjust your variations for your opponent that you're playing against, then you need to remember to use the moves that you adjust for. You need to remember to use the moves that you switch variations for to begin with. Because I see people switch characters or switch variations all the time and never use what they switched to that variation or character for. They never use it. They always forget. There's always usually, especially in NRS games, sometimes a way to counterpick your opponent, a way to counterplay what they're doing. And I see a lot of people who counterpick or try to counterplay and never capitalize on why it's a counterpick or a counterplay. So in this situation, it was the parry. And I think it did take me a minute to actually start using that parry against him, because I started out using it wrong. And then I was like, okay, let's chill, let's not use it as much, and let's wait for the right situation. And I eventually started using it right. So once I got my stuff down, once I started adjusting my playstyle, it was adjusting how he played. So yeah, I've never played against a very good Kogo after the customs update. I ran across a few in Combat League, and of course that's not time to learn a matchup. 2 games against whatever character I'm playing at that point in time is not enough games to learn a matchup. So then it came to the next part of adjusting to his playstyle and learning the matchup at the same time. Sometimes, especially with customs coming out, even though it's been out for over a month now, you're still learning matchups for your character versus these new custom variations. You're learning the matchups all over again for the specific things that people have set up. So you're learning how to adjust to the player's playstyle and adjust to that matchup and how it plays. So his playstyle was very different from what I've seen other Kogos do. He was a very sit back, half screen, full neutral, but neutral to where he could forward too. He was pretty good at anti-airing me. He was really good at command grabbing on tick throw. So it was really adjusting to how he was doing that. It felt like every time I would try to jump on his command grab, he finally finished the string, or every time I wouldn't jump, I could instantly get command grab. It was like he was reacting to that. And no matter what he would do, it felt like when he always came in, every time he came in, he was throwing out that amplified disc to stay completely safe. And that was another part of me not understanding the matchup, because I haven't been up against anyone who had that amplified disc. But it really came down in my head to kind of out-neutraling him without having the neutral tools that he had. See, so me adjusting to his playstyle, and it did take me a little bit, but I eventually got there. It was waiting on him to mess up in the neutral instead of feeling like I had to rush him down immediately. Yeah, I still made mistakes in doing that, but mainly it was playing patient against him, the way that a zoner would end up playing, but without zoning. I had to wait on him to mess up his neutral, which in my opinion, it's kind of hard to do with Kogo, and then I had to start my pressure. So it was more of a patience game on my part, and more of a let him fuck up. And that's how you have to play some opponents. You can't just be, if you're a rushdown player like me, you can't just be full offense all the time, because you're eventually going to come up against someone who just outplays you in the neutral, and you can't get that offense going. So you have to back off, play patient, and let them mess up in their game. Let them mess up their neutral, and then you start your pressure, and then you start your game. It's very hard to do that sometimes as a rushdown player, as a pure rushdown player, but sometimes that's the best way to play, and that is all about adjusting to your opponent's playstyle. You're going to come up against more rushdown players who you probably need to adjust your playstyle for. They might be better rushdown for you, so you have to outplay them in the neutral. They might be, there might be zoners that you need to outplay in the neutral to actually get your rushdown. It's all about adjusting to your opponent, and the best way to adjust is to adjust yourself first. The best way, in my opinion, to adjust to your opponent and overcome what your opponent is doing is to actually adjust what you're doing wrong first. Mend your character. Make sure you're playing the right variation, the right character. Fix what you're doing wrong first, and then work on outplaying what they're doing. Then work on adjusting to how they're playing. It all starts at you, and then it eventually goes to them. But mainly, there's usually something that you are doing wrong first that you need to adjust to. And I'm not saying that you always have to switch characters to adjust to your opponent. I'm not saying that you have to counterpick or counterplay someone. You can stick with the character you're using and usually find out a way to adapt and overcome, and that's how mostly every other fighting game is. There's a lot of character loyalists. There's a lot of people who only play a few characters and don't switch no matter what. But in NRS games, it is really, really easy to counterpick and counterplay because there are so many counterpicks and counterplays to different characters. It's unreal. But I really wanted to stick with Liu Kang in this situation, and usually, unless, the character is really not that good at all, usually there's always a way around something in Mortal Kombat 11, which is actually kind of nice. But that's my thoughts on how to adapt and overcome your opponent. In my opinion, it starts with you and then it goes to them. You need to adjust to you first and then adjust to them. That's just my opinion when it comes to it. That's been my experience as a fighting game player for the past, 5 years. Let me know what you guys think about it in the comments down below. How do you adapt and overcome? Let me know if this video helped you and if you'd like to see more. Make sure to practice. Make sure to lab. It really comes down to labbing. One thing that I've made a mistake on in Mortal Kombat 11 Ultimate so far is I have not labbed the matchups for these new variations because there are so many different ones. It really does make it hard to cover all bases when you go to the lab and lab because there's so many people playing so many different things. It's like, holy crap, I don't have enough variation slots to cover all of the shit and different combinations that people are running. So I have made the mistake of just like, okay, well, I'll fucking learn it on the fly. I'll just play someone in custom matches for as long as they let me, and I'll learn it that way. And it really does come back to bite you in the ass. So make sure you lab this shit and don't be like me even if it takes you forever. Make sure you get down what is beating you and what you think could possibly beat you from what you've seen elsewhere. Just make sure you guys do that. It's one of the best ways to get better at fighting games is spending a lot of time in the lab. But again, that's just my opinion. I hope you guys did enjoy the video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Again, let me know in the description, not in the description, let me know in the comments down below if you guys did enjoy the video and if you'd like to see more of these. But major shout out to my supporters, The Thinny, MasterVex PC, Jay, Sir D, Frank, The Tank H2O, and Ricky Laughlin. You guys are awesome. Thank you guys so much for the support. I really appreciate you. But that's going to do it for me. My name is Tootin. I've been your host. I hope you guys enjoyed the video again. Stay safe out there, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace out.
Sirens in the distance, I can hear their deadly song. And so